Ladies and gentlemen, SideStrafe back with another look at the War Thunder Ground Forces closed beta test. I've got some footage from a few days ago, taken with my good friends Bombadil and Bismarck. I've got me and Bismarck in T-34s, and Bombadil having just arrived to the beta in a BT-7. Currently, Gaijin is testing progression systems. They've put us back to Tier 1, and you start out with your reserve tanks, and you of course just have to grind down the tree and try to get yourself into something a little bit more potent. However, I will warn you that the T-34 is currently the most powerful tank of its tier. Now, this is historically accurate. It did pose a major threat to the German army, but in this game, it would seem that there's a problem with either the German ammunition or maybe the T-34 itself. It would seem that 50mm main guns with high-velocity, armor-piercing composite rigid rounds are unable to penetrate this thing, in some cases even at extremely close ranges. Now, yes, the T-34 did have amazing armor for its time. If we're to look at the in-game statistics, it's listed at 45 front, 45 side, 40 rear on the hull, which effectively doubled, could be 90, 90, and 80. Again, this is just talking in-game stats. We're not talking about historical fact-checking or looking at books, which might have different numbers. This is an early model T-34, the one mounting the L11 76mm gun, so the tank may have been up-armored over time. But as we're playing the game, we can only go off of their stats for now. However, that stat card could be incorrect as well. It's beta, anything's possible. Now, where I see an issue is that the Germans have access to the Panzer III Ausf F, which has a 50mm main gun. You can then upgrade its ammunition to the PZGR-40, which is a high-velocity, armor-piercing composite rigid round. This, according to in-game stats again, should be doing a velocity of 1,050 meters a second. And so penetration, we're talking 105 millimeters at 10 meters. 95 millimeters at 100 meters, and 55 millimeters at 500 meters. Now, let's say you drive your Panzer up to the T-34 point-blank range. In many cases, you're still not going to be able to pen this sucker. That's a problem. In fact, I have driven my Panzer III all the way up to this thing. Rear armor, back of the turret, sides, weak spots, hatches, tracks, you name it. It's really having a tough time trying to get through any part of this tank. Something seems to be wrong here. And we can even bring in the Sturmgeschütz and talk about how it has a 75mm main gun. Now, it's a short barrel, very, very low velocity. In fact, almost half the velocity of the PZGR-40 round on the Panzer III. But still, point-blank range, nothing happening, even with a larger round. There's something clearly broken here. And so, anyway, that's what I mostly wanted to get out of the way before we watch the rest of this here, because you might see me take quite a few hits that just don't do anything. And in some cases, it might be due to the fact that there's currently a broken damage model that I hope gets resolved soon, because it does make it difficult to test the game properly and report feedback within the forums. Anyway, now that you're aware of that issue, we can get back to the game at hand. Here you can see that I am dealing with a Sturmgeschütz from the front. Very thick armor frontally, not something you really want to deal with. And at this point, I just resorted to tracking him and yelling at Bismarck to go around and flanking him. So I go ahead and try to throw another shot into his driver's slit. He's not able to defeat me. He's got a low velocity 75. Bismarck able to take him out from the side with an effective flank. And sometimes it's just about buying time for your ally to move around and take out the enemy from a better position. That's why it is very important that you move together with a team and communicate properly over voice comms. Now, at this point, I had decided to move my tank up to the ridge here. I wanted to see if I can engage any targets at range. And you can see the next objective over there. You can see the little white line close to where that bomber wreck is. One tank had just left my site picture, and then I see some more red pop up. Again, still not a fan of the name tags. Hopefully they'll be removed at some point. Shot out right into the back of that vehicle, setting him on fire, and he's gone. So getting that successful lead the first time is extremely important. Getting to know your tank and its gun elevation properties helps a great deal in taking out a target the first time around. I'm not perfect at it. I'm still getting used to it. And every time you jump into a different tank, you have to change how you aim. But I do think it's a lot of fun, and I really appreciate the challenge of not having a little X that tells you where to raise your gun. Now, something else I feel that I need to bring up, very hot topic in the forums as well. This is realistic battles, and for some reason, Gaijin has decided to add a respawn mechanic. Now, if you've played War Thunder Air Forces, you know that if you go into realistic or simulator battles, you pick one plane, you have one life. Once you're eliminated, you're out. However, now in War Thunder Ground Forces, in this current phase of beta, they allow you a respawn or two depending on what tank you've chosen. It would seem that some of the lighter tanks get more respawns than some of the heavier tanks. This is a problem in a video game because when you're eliminated and you're given the ability to respawn, you have detailed knowledge. You know what took you out. You probably know where it took you out from and maybe how to deal with it once you come back. You're able to approach the situation differently, come around, perhaps flank the guy that eliminated you in the first place. That's an unfair advantage, and that's why respawning in a realistic scenario is going to bring about more bad than good. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, what about the numbers advantage? The Allies were able to field more tanks, especially when we're talking about Shermans, and this respawn mechanic could be a good way to simulate that. And in some ways I could agree, but unfortunately, since this is a video game, it causes more problems. And the thing is, when you're allowing somebody to come back, he has knowledge that he wouldn't otherwise. Now, if this was another player taking his place, that's a different story. If you really want to simulate numbers, then you're just going to have to make the teams lopsided. The Americans should have more players and tanks than the Germans, because the Germans are going to have better armor and better guns. And in this game, of course, nothing breaks down. One of the biggest advantages to the Sherman tank was that it was extremely reliable, and if it did have any issues, it was easy to take care of even on the field. Whereas with German tanks, especially talking about the Panther, where in some cases you had a tank that broke down in as little as 900 miles due to engine or suspension problems. But again, since you're not having reliability issues in this, maybe they should look at something like lopsided teams. Maybe the Americans, or in some cases the Russians, should just have more tanks, whereas the Germans just might have higher powered tanks or better guns at ranges. So who knows? But right now I can tell you that the respawn mechanic in realistic battles is not working. Again, there's just more bad than good that comes of it. Now, at this point in the match, you can see that Bismarck and I have successfully flanked around and into the enemy's spawn point, or at least one of them. I believe Bombadil had been eliminated and he was coming back from a respawn and trying to meet up with us. We know that we're losing based on the objective at the top of the screen, so we're going to go ahead and try to get the middle point if possible. You can see a lot of explosions in the distance, and in fact it looks like an artillery drop of some kind hitting the middle point. This was a really exposed area to move through, but we were really short on time and we had to utilize the T-34's speed. I was a little concerned with somebody spawning behind me, or perhaps a shot coming in from the left, but we again just didn't have a choice. At this point I remember thinking that we weren't going to make it. We had to climb up this hill, which means we were going to slow down. Bombadil, I believe, is back at the alpha point. As you can see on the minimap, there's a little green icon showing his location. And I already see Bismarck struggling to get up this hill. I see myself now struggling to get up the hill. And that bar is just shrinking as the time flies by. Bismarck managing to get into the capture circle. I'm about to follow up. And we're wondering if this game allows the cap to go faster with more tanks in the circle. And we do seem to discover that, yes, that is true. The more tanks you have in here, the faster it's going to go. I don't know the exact number. I don't know if it caps out at a certain number of tanks, but as you can see, we were able to capture Bravo fairly quickly with just 2 tanks, and it looks like we're taking some incoming fire. Artillery and what seems to be a Panzer III F make that 2 of them we are engaging. We do have the high ground, but we are taking some artillery fire. The sloped armor of the T-34 is holding up. At the front, high ground, we do have the advantage here. Plus, consider the fact that, well, the damage model may be broken, so the Panzer IIIs are going to have a tough time trying to get through us. And we just continue to engage with confidence. As you can see here, just me taking careful aim, trying to go through the driver's slit and eliminating the 2nd Panzer III. Now again, the problem is that while we may have eliminated those 2 there, we don't know if they have more respawns available to them, so they could be on their way back. And that's, again, the flaw of having respawning. I like knowing that I've taken somebody out of the game. They're done. They made the mistake. I capitalized on it. They're out. We're good to go. In this case, you just don't know. Sometimes at the start of a battle, you might figure, okay, I killed that guy. That's the first time anybody saw him. He's going to come back one more time, and you can kind of calculate how many spawns somebody has. But in this case, we just don't know. We figure, let's go ahead and move up to this next point, grab some cover behind the rock. You can see Bismarck looking to the right, and I decide to cover the left flank and make sure that nobody comes down this other hill. The only problem is if you look to my left, there's another opening from Bravo that could possibly be hit. But we're backed up here by another T-34, and we're able to quickly capture Charlie. We now have all 3 victory points, and we decide to just kind of hold these points as best as we possibly can. You can see we're taking some fire from front. Looks like some more artillery inbound, but too little too late, and all the way up at the front, perhaps they were looking to predict the movement of that 3rd T-34. At this point, I'm thinking, well, maybe some of those targets will roll up to us from the front. The only problem we might run into is if somebody tries to capture one of the points that's outside of our reach. However, we are pretty fast, and we can probably get to Bravo pretty quickly if that one is compromised. Plus, we'll still have this point as well as Alpha. Now, we've got Bombadil, who finally manages to join us here in his BT-7. We decide to roll together. You can see that they are trying to take the middle point, and we need to get up this hill and go deal with that threat because we just don't want to take any chances. We need to really accelerate the point capture here. So you can see Bombadil up front trying to take some aim on a target. Shots out, backing up for the reload. Near miss there from the enemy tank. I'm just still trying to get up this hill at an angle, and hopefully I'll be able to get some sort of gun solution on him. But I'm thinking that I want to be more on the right since he's looking towards Bombadil. Now he's just going to rush forward, and I'm trying to get some aim here. Don't have the gun depression, so I need to move forward even more. But I don't really have a good shot. You can see we can barely get a glimpse of his turret and perhaps Commander Cupola. But again, this game doesn't work like World of Tanks. Just because you hit a Cupola, that doesn't mean it's going to take hit points off of a tank. It means you might kill the commander, but that's about it. And so we decide to move forward. Bombadil's on the left here, and I'm telling him to be very careful because his tank is light and can't take a hit very well. So I'm thinking, okay, you maybe grab his attention from the left, and I'm just going to go ahead and play it safe, flank all the way around. I'm going to decide to go under this bridge and try to make my way up and around the flank of this tank, which I believe is a Panzer III. You can hear some more artillery falling in, as well as a plane trying to attempt a strafing run. Now, those machine guns aren't going to do a whole lot. Really not a huge threat unless he's got some bombs loaded up. But the problem is here, I'm trying to take this long route, and it's kind of slow going. We see the target right up ahead, but he is already on fire. Bombadil lighting him up, so I don't get my nice satisfying flank, and a plane also peppering him with machine gun fire. I decide to roll into this point, get some more cap under our belt, and I tell Bombadil join me so we can quick cap it and hopefully secure this victory. Very, very close game, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that bar up at the top. We nearly lost that one, and we were able to successfully flank and retake points. Good teamwork all around. Bombadil, unfortunately, was eliminated early on, so he had a tough time catching up to us. But we really had to move fast there to recapture those points. Otherwise, it would have been a loss. And that BT-7, really fast, pretty zippy, especially in a straight line, but it just really can't take much of a hit at all from almost any type of gun that I think is currently available in this phase of testing. But you can see here that I'm just unlocking some extra components and trying to just get the most important things first. We got a whole lot of points from winning that, almost enough to get through most of the components available. I'm sure some of the points are left over from other battles as well. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I really hope that you've enjoyed this look at War Thunder ground forces. Again, keep in mind this is a closed beta test and everything is subject to change. Also, if you would, please take a look at my friends Bismarck and Bombadil. I will have links to their channels in the description below. And with that said, I'll see you on the next one.